Nearly 200 years after first contact with the West, Native Hawaiian culture had been greatly dismantled. Most Native Hawaiians, made to feel ashamed of their identity, felt displaced in their own land. Deeply frustrated, a generation of young Hawaiian activists would rise up in the 1970s.
When we're waking up, we're finding out we're Hawaiians and we're very proud to be Hawaiians.
It's very important that we get together. This is the seed today of a new revolution.
The Native Hawaiian Cultural Renaissance is a complex story of reawakening, struggle, and determination. In many ways, it was driven by two simultaneous and long-standing efforts. The political struggle to free Kaho'olawe from the U.S. military, and the cultural challenge of re-establishing inter-Polynesian voyaging aboard a double-hulled sailing canoe named Hokule. Not by accident, the story of modern Hawaii's first voyaging canoe is deeply connected and runs parallel to the story of freeing Kaho'olawe from the U.S. military. Located near the center of the Hawaiian archipelago lies Kaho'olawe, known in ancient times as Kanaloa. The smallest of the main Hawaiian islands, Kanaloa was once inhabited by Native Hawaiians, but for many decades, no one has lived here. The island's isolation comes as a result of over 50 years of violent bombing and munitions training by the United States military. Today, the land is being brought back to life, and the island is calling for the return of her people. In 2004, a historic gathering took place to celebrate the end of control over the island by the U.S. Navy. The event was a homecoming for a generation of early warriors who fought the military's presence during the 1970s. Pushing the legal system with daring protests, many early warriors had been barred from returning. For some of these individuals, it would be the first time back to the island in nearly 30 years.
I'm not hiding this time, we're in the open.
Tomorrow's our birthday. Tomorrow's 14 years since we stopped the bombing. And we never thought we could do it. And welcoming the old warriors back that started all this has really been the occasion, all right, for us to gather and share the stories.
Also attending the historic event were the early Voyagers of Hokule, oceanic navigators whose revived traditions have deep roots in Kaho'olawe. The auspicious gathering would ultimately commemorate the rebirth of the island and bring full circle a powerful movement that began in the 1970s.
The first time I ever set eyes on Kaho'olawe was when I was very young, of course, on Molokai looking across the ocean.
And you can see the island light up with torches every night. Just bombing, bombing, bombing.
It was this unconsciousness about what was going on. We all knew it was Kaho'olawe.
I said, brother, I just came from Kaho'olawe. Let's go.
He had a dream that we're supposed to come to Kaho'olawe.
They said we're going, and 5:30 the next morning, they were on the plane on their way.
100 yards, man, them bombs came down. And they knew that we were there.
By the 1970s, the bombing of Kaho'olawe only added insult to injury for a frustrated generation of young Hawaiians. The idea that their people were being denied access to a Hawaiian island, an island being destroyed by the U.S. military, would spark radical ideas and become a daring avenue for searching out a new sense of identity.
What is the Hawaiian way? We didn't know what was the Hawaiian way. All I knew was we gotta stop that sucking bombing. We have to stop that bombing.
In 1976, Charlie Maxwell of Maui decided to organize an occupation of Kaho'olawe to draw national attention to the historic injustices suffered by Native Hawaiians. Joining him were activists from Huialaloa, a group that had won shoreline access rights for Native Hawaiians on Molokai. 3 of the leaders of Huialaloa were George Helm, Noah Emmett Aluli, and Walter Riddy.
We got a call from Charlie, and he wanted somebody to do the hunting to feed everybody. So that was my thing. So I'm assuming I called you and Georgian because the 3 of us ended up coming over to Maui.
So it was all secret kind of stuff that night. And nobody knew what was happening. It was kind of organized by Uncle Charlie Maxwell and the Native Coalition for Native Hawaiian Claims.
Emmett came to my house to tell my mother about going to Kaho'olawe, and I happened to be listening in the background. I was 20 years old. Emmett was going to Kaho'olawe. I didn't even know anything about the island. And being that he was going to go to Kaho'olawe, I was thinking, man, I'd like to go there, you know. Could I go? And Emmett said, you want to go? Let's go.
So when we came to Kaho'olawe, the helicopter was hovering over us, and the Kidnawagan was there, and they was yelling to all the boats, we're going to confiscate over your boats, we have all the numbers from your boats. And so some of my friends, all fishermen, they were all pu'iwa because they used that for fishing, you know.
And then Charlie says we got to go back because we're being threatened by the helicopters with the megaphones and whatever, that they're going to confiscate all the boats. So I never go back, but I was like, hey, I got to get on that island now.
The Coast Guard cutter went follow on all the helicopters. So Walter guys saw that, they would turn around and they come and they would land on the island.
George landed just to touch the island and then left. And there was 9 of us.
Well, George left right away.
Yeah.
Because you and I left.
Yeah.
We went Mauka.
But you jump off first.
And I knew that the Coast Guard was on their way. They landed and they served and they were there with their badges and this and that. And that was basically the beginning. I think they were looking for you two. You guys were gone into the hills.
So by that afternoon, everybody was arrested except Walter and Emmett.
So they came looking for us. We hid in the crevice, yeah?
We hid for a long while, for about a couple hours.
Yeah, we jumped in the crevice, covered ourselves with grass, and the helicopters came up and went right over us.
Yeah. So then we kind of like just hung out there a little while, and then we just saw all kinds of strong things.
Yeah, well, we was over there looking for the mana, looking for all these kinds of things like we see in the movies, but we never know that thing crawls through you from the ground and then slowly into you. You know, it's not like in the movies.
When we first land here and when we leave here, what was really clear that we had to have other people come to Kaho'olawe to experience what we've experienced.
News of the daring Kaho'olawe protests had spread throughout Hawaii. Impassioned by what they had experienced, Walter and Emmett set off on a second illegal landing 2 weeks after the first. Seeing how deeply affected Walter was by the experience, his sister Scarlett and his wife Loretta chose to go with them.
I looked at him and I really knew that he changed. I really knew something. He was different. So it was late. I said, I want to go. Take me.
He was driven by something deep inside of him to go back. He just needed to go back. And so he asked me to go, so that's like Scarlett, like, yeah, let's go.
We was in a darkness. The boat got stuck. We was freaking out. I said, oh my God, what am I doing here? Then they fixed the boat. And we started getting closer and the island got bigger. And that's what I can remember is just staring, because out of nothing, this little island kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You know, when I came back, I couldn't express to people because they had no conception that why the cause was so great was because here was just like there. But they never know. You know, they just never know.
A month later, through negotiations with the Navy, the activists won the opportunity to legally access the island for cultural purposes. This time, the activists were accompanied by respected kupuna, the elders and practitioners of Hawaiian tradition.
They were of the thought that if you didn't have a proper Hawaiian opening, you ain't gonna make it or you're gonna die. You gotta open the island with ceremonies. You gotta offer a black pig, ava. You had like Uncle Harry Mitchell camp out that night preparing the pig. And you had Carl Mowat, and you had about 5 guys, only 5 guys that could be there to make the preparations. And then came, I think, about 60 people. And people just jumped off the boat. And everybody swam in, had the ceremonies, had the offering, had Auntie Emma DeFries walk the beach, and the winds changed and nobody could leave. And so the helicopters came in to pick everybody back up.
By spring of 1976, controversy surrounding Kaho'olawe had divided the Hawaiian community. While some praised the emerging activists, others criticized them for being too radical. But the protesters pushed on. They formed the Protect Kaho'olawe Ohana, an organization with the vision of freeing Kaho'olawe and returning her to Hawaii's people.
In essence, our concern is toward making pathways for the proper use of Hawaii's natural resources, her people, her land, her waters, and all which comes willingly from the Aina. So our feeling is just a feeling of love for our Hawaiian people.
George Helm, a charismatic young musician from Molokai, knew that unity and support among Native Hawaiians would be the key to saving Kaho'olawe. Eloquent and honest, Helm worked passionately to inspire and educate his people.
Kama'aina means the child of the land, and every one of you that have that Hawaiian blood in you is a child of this land. And you are attached to it, whether you like it or not. And you have that blood running through your veins. And if Dick and Jane, if the Dick and Jane book's not going to make you proud of what you are, then Kaho'olawe is going to.
Kaho'olawe really was about our people reclaiming themselves, their heritage, by creating their own voice and their own way of speaking, you know? And I think that that's one of the most beautiful things that George Helm did, is he went back to the kupunas, went back to his community, and actually talked to his people about the issues that were facing them. But he was very sensitive and very keen about the voice, the leo that came forward.
Kaho'olawe is synonymous to Aloha Aina. We love the land. And if all us Hawaiians can go over there and touch it, we all come together.
When I first met George Helm on Molokai, the concept of aloha aina, which he was talking about, for the first time, brought to us an understanding that really, our existence in Hawaii was predicated on our care and our love for our land. So when we, by comparison, look at what was happening on Kaho'olawe, obviously the two were in conflict, that you cannot survive if you are destroying your land.
The fundamental concept of aloha aina, of loving and caring for the land, would unite activists from throughout Hawaii. The battle for Kaho'olawe was heating up. George Helm and the Ohana worked tirelessly to convince politicians that the bombing needed to stop. Breaking their own protocol, Hawaiian legislators invited Helm to speak on the floor of the Hawaii State Legislature. Helm wrote to President Jimmy Carter and even flew to Washington, D.C. in hopes of meeting with him. Meanwhile, feeling that direct occupation was the primary way to confront the military, two Molokai activists, Richard Sawyer and Walter Riddy, took matters into their own hands and launched what grew into a 35-day occupation.
We stayed for 35 days, until what Walter's father said was going to happen to us did happen. They said that they don't care. They don't care. They're just going to continue operations. And they had Operation Rimpack, where the 5 allied nations came and they were bombing. Sounded like they were bombing on top of Kanapo. And I remember me and Walter was hiding in a cave near Hakeo'awa. We ran out of food and we ran out of water, and I think we heard on the radio that people were coming.
Concerned for Walter and Richard's safety, Helm and the Protect Kaho'olawe Ohana planned a mass landing to bring the two men additional supplies. While several boats operated as decoys, one boat successfully landed at Kamohi'o Bay. Joyce Kainoa was a member of this group.
We promised to take the water, like Richard was saying. We had extra water for him. Many of us who went on board, who was at the meeting, was to carry kaukau and water and leave it at Kanapo. That was our orders, and then get arrested. But we were on the other side of the island. That turned out to be, when we did get on top of the mountain, we were right smack in the target zone. So we're in the wrong place because they're going to stop the bombing again. So, I can laugh now. I wasn't laughing then. Now, we had this problem. We got to get across the flat land. We got to get out. And I think it was, 11 miles? Yeah, 11 miles. But where we are, because we go on this flat, we come out of the gulch, we all rest, we decide to walk at night. All of a sudden, we found ourselves, lokahi, come together now, because it's the mana. Now, because we're going to walk through this place, and we don't know if we're going to come out alive. All you can do is put your life in Akua's hands. And we asked to walk the path for us and run straight up across. We took all night to go across. We finally, because it's so hard to see that you see these military trucks, get this big X on top of it. You get this white line going right around, target zero. And we're like smacking it, we don't know where the hell we're going. All I know, I can see Maui. I can see Haleakala, so that's where we go. So we're going straight across, and I have to say, we made it to the other side. But this brother and saw, when I asked it, they said, we're going to get arrested, So what are you going to say? Then I guess, I don't know the exact word. This brother says, I think either you or Saul or Maka. He says, they don't can get arrested. Because what? They just was there on parole. Hey, they quaver.
I hate that part.
No, but see, this is God's truth. And then now, so I'm telling him, what? He says, you guys gonna get arrested. Do you know these feds? That means if you get arrested, they're gonna throw the key away. You guys, so I told them, you guys gonna swim off this island. You know? So I said, you gonna swim, you're going back to Maui. Do you know, as God's truth, that's what they did.
I didn't know what the hell was going on. They just gave me a ride over here and said, let's go attack.
The two men from Kauai swam the 8-mile channel back to Maui. The remaining group successfully delivered fresh supplies to Kanaloa and was soon after arrested. Walter and Richard continued their drawn-out occupation. George Helm, concerned for their safety, decided it was time to get them off of Kaho'olawe. He coordinated a secret landing effort and asked a young man from Keanai, Maui, Kimo Mitchell, to accompany him. On the stormy night of Saturday, March 5, 1977, they set out for the island. They made landfall and began to search for Walter and Richard. There is much confusion over what happened next, but in the end, George Helm and Kimo Mitchell had somehow disappeared. Believed to be lost at sea, the two men were never found.
All our songs talk about love, the very natural things, the elements of nature, the way, the aina, the pohaku, the flower, the pua, everything that came from this earth. And that's what Protect Kaho'olawe Ohana is all about. We're saying that our kupuna is asking us for the proper respect to the heritage and to the souls that are still living around this Hawaii name.
In addition to the heavy blow of George and Kimo's disappearance, Walter Riddy, Richard Sawyer, and those who came to their aid faced prison sentences and were barred from returning to Kaho'olawe. The movement to save the island had hit a low point, yet support for the Protect Kaho'olawe Ohana only grew stronger.
I was just a young opio following these guys, you know, listening to Brother Saul, what he was sharing with us about Aloha Aina. Because when we came over here, I never know nothing. I was terrified. Walking on the island with all bombs, and there was bombing the island, and it was very scary, man. But it changed my life because it made me look into myself as a kaneka. And all the kupunas and the tutus I met, Auntie Frenchie, Auntie Emma, Auntie Clara Ku, they all taught us important things. Malama ka aina, malama ka po'i Hawaii nei, you know, take care of the land, take care of each other. And when we got arrested here, they flew us straight to Kaneohe Marine Base. The marshals was there, but it was different for us because when we got off, wow, it was like heroes, man. There was like hundreds of people by the fence crying, trying to climb over the fence and touch us guys and say, thank you, brother, thank you, mahalo for fighting for us.
In response to a 1976 civil suit filed by George Helm and the Protect Kaho'olawe Ohana, the Federal District Court ordered the U.S. Navy to conduct an environmental impact study in 1977. This small victory would be followed by 13 years of political organizing and community outreach led by a steadfast group committed to completing the work for which George Helm and Kimo Mitchell gave their lives. In 1980, the court ordered the U.S. Navy to sign a consent decree that limited bombing to the central third of the island, mandated restoration and clearance of ordnance, and gave the Protect Kaho'olawe Ohana legal monthly access to Kaho'olawe. The Ohana took thousands of people to the island, rededicated cultural sites, revived the makahiki ceremony, and persevered through years of relentless legal struggle until finally, in 1990, the military ended all bombing.
Finally, the Navy was forced to end the bombing. And then Anti-Frenchy sets up this conveyance commission that recommends that the island be turned over to the state, and that would set up special legislation that this would always be an ongoing preserve.
Against all odds, Kaho'olawe is now completely free of military presence. And though the story has many chapters, it all began with a generation of daring and committed young Hawaiians searching passionately for a deeper connection to their culture and identity.
All Hawaii stands together. It is now and forever to raise your voices and hold your banners high. We shall stand as a nation.
The early warriors of Kaho'olawe were not alone in their effort to reclaim their native Hawaiian identity. There was another group of young Hawaiians in the 1970s searching out a similar path, a path that would also bring them to the shores of Kaho'olawe. The gathering on Kaho'olawe in 2004 included the historic arrival of 3 voyaging canoes and the early voyagers of Hokule.
For the first time, all the voyaging families are getting together. And the kupuna mana'o is coming down about Kaho'olawe, finally, after 30 years of research, will be reestablished as a navigational center.
The connection between Kaho'olawe and seafaring is significant and ancient. Historical evidence proves that Kaho'olawe was used as a training site for early Hawaiian navigators. An ancient navigator's training chair for stargazing, a perfectly aligned stone compass, and a tradition that directly links the island to Kanaloa, the Hawaiian god of the ocean. Most telling of all is the name of the island's westernmost point, Kealaikahiki. Translated, Kealaikahiki means the pathway to Tahiti. Oral history describes this place as a send-off and arrival point for ancient inter-Polynesian voyages. But open ocean navigation had not been practiced by native Hawaiians for hundreds of years. In an effort to understand this lost tradition, a canoe by the name of Hokule was designed and built in the early 70s. Leading the project was a mix of scientists and cultural visionaries. They wanted to prove the theory that ancient Hawaiians were advanced seafarers capable of long-distance inter-Polynesian voyages.
The National Geographic had just given this new organization called the Polynesian Voyaging Society $125,000 seed money to build this canoe. Over 800 years had passed since any of these canoes had ever been on the beach, and nobody knew how to use them or what they were for.
Hokule sailed throughout the Hawaiian Islands to recruit and train crew members. With the cultural renaissance already stirring, the vessel captured the fascination of young Hawaiians. For a fortunate handful, the canoe would become their destiny.
I was fortunate enough to get on Hokule in the summer of 1975. I actually joined the canoe at the City of Refuge in Honaunau. I wasn't meant to, I just happened to be there at the right place at the right time.
At the time I was going to work. I was working as a lifeguard at a hotel.
And I stop on the side of the road, I just look at it, and wow, you know, it's amazing to see an ancient canoe come to Lahaina. And they told me, you know, Snake, we like you to be part of Hokule.
Man, that was like absolutely the most beautiful thing I ever saw come into our harbor. And I thought, if I can just touch this canoe, I'll be happy just to touch it.
Hokule would go on to complete her first voyage to Tahiti in 1976, the same year that the occupations of Kaho'olawe began. Hokule'a's success provided powerful momentum for the emerging Hawaiian Cultural Renaissance and helped answer important questions about identity.
There's truth in sailing on a canoe. You cannot go to sea and try to hide. Whoever you are, you go out there on a canoe, you stay out there a few days, whoever you truly are will surface. Your own truth will hit you in the face.
Like the fight for Kaho'olawe, the effort to re-establish ancient Hawaiian wayfinding involves soul-searching, struggle, commitment, and tragic loss. In 1979, Hokule capsized in a stormy sea. Famous big wave surfer Eddie Kau paddled away on his surfboard to get help. He was never seen again. The loss of Eddie Kau was painfully reminiscent of George Helm and Kimo Mitchell's tragic disappearance. The early voyagers of Hokule had hit a low point, but would find the strength to carry on. The crew members of Hokule soon became icons for a generation of young Hawaiians. Master Navigator Pialug, who navigated the canoe to Tahiti on its first voyage, would especially stand out. From the tiny island of Satawal in Micronesia, Mao was recognized as one of the last living traditionally trained wayfinders in the Pacific. Through his involvement with Hokule, Mao is credited for re-educating Hawaiians in the ancient art of non-instrument open ocean wayfinding.
To me, Mao, he has all his ancestors with him. He knows things. He looks at the clouds. He knows what's happening in like tomorrow. He can tell you what kind of weather, what kind of wind, where the wind is going to come from. He has all the ability to do that.
Rain came, and in the squall, so we went in a squall. And when we came out of the squall, the escort boat was going this way, and we were going that way. And Mao smiled and said, they don't know where they're going.
Coming to Kaho'olawe for the first time, Mao would share his vision of uniting the families of Kaho'olawe with those of the Voyagers by rededicating the island as a navigational center.
From this point on, all canoes, whenever they decide to depart from Hawaii to do a long navigation, will have to depart from Kealuikahiki. He's made that announcement, and he'll officially say that here to everybody, to the navigators, because and he's seeing this as this is it. This is it's gonna happen now. It's gonna open it all up, and things will come, and it's just the right time.
Despite the parallels between the Kaho'olawe effort and that of Hokule, there has long been a painful divide between the early participants of these two movements. The division came in 1976 when members of Hokule were asked to bring the canoe to Kaho'olawe to help in the protests of the bombing.
You know, in the last few weeks, but we've been going out to all the islands. A lot of the early warriors had expressed some concern about having the canoes with us. There was a lot of concern because when we were fighting for Kaho'olawe and we had wanted the canoes to come and join us, that their leaders, who are no longer their leaders, were reluctant to join us because they were getting federal funds, etc., and their boat would be confiscated like a lot of the fishing boats would be confiscated. And so they weren't there for us at that time.
Those political decisions that were made in 1976 hurt, not physical hurt, but what they call, I think French calls inside. And it's about taking that away too.
What happened was, I believe it was the Navy and the Coast Guard declared that if Hokule got anywhere close to Kaho'olawe, they were going to impound the canoe. And this is prior to us leaving to Tahiti. Subsequently, when we did depart from Maui for Tahiti, instead of taking what we believed was the very cultural and correct route of Keala'i Kahiki, we went north between Maui and Molokai.
It's something that we've always wanted to do, bring the canoe here. We should have done it in '76. You know, they said they would take the canoe away, but we don't know because we didn't do it, you know. But what if they did? So I don't know. It's something we have to live with, right? We didn't bring the canoe here. We didn't try in '76, but it's here now.
And to go from a point where the canoe is going to be impounded to this point now, where there are 3 canoes here, that is rather significant.
Being able to come onto Kaho'olawe, I see so much similarity in what the early warriors have done and what our kupuna and the voyaging side have done. As I think about the last 30 years, you know, Hokule is now like an icon. It's like represents kind of the Hawaiian Renaissance. But alongside with that has been Kaho'olawe. Now, with the voyaging, we've always been, in general, kind of really non-political and just wanting to do the voyaging and do it as much as we can to bring that back. And the real activist side actually has been the early warriors and all the folks that are involved with Kaho'olawe. And it was, in the early days, it was very separate, and there was there's some hard feeling about that. But as time has gone on, both have become very important to where Hawaii will go. And it's real important that they come together.
Oh, how mea manuka hikele omo i ke hakalani nane noho kulani a ola o kalana ola ke li ki kahuna ola ki kilo ki kaua noho ya hawa ya lulana kani mo opuna i kaua o kaua i kamohu a omo i ke ha ke ali e yala o Hokule a ke ti mai a holo i kahiki ke ali i he hiriwa nakala hui mai lona nui a ke a taunu pa ho i kamole ole hua kau hua o hau mea Nakatea kapua wakea. Wehea ke out. Wow, tapo pahana mo. Anaw na mo na aina. Bang aino na kay ewalu. Ola na narui kukuro tahiti. Ahiki na kui taptapu atea. Akamoana nui kamoana kea Kanaloa. Ai o kaiki moe kaiki kai ale la. Holo inu umealani. Holo inu uhiva. Ai o pukali aiti o pukali anui.
For the early voyagers, the arrival to Kaho'olawe was not only an opportunity to heal their relationship with the early warriors, but also an occasion to reunite with one another. They came to honor both the story of Kaho'olawe as well as their own story.
Mao has come, and because of Mao, many of those who were involved with voyaging for many years and decades, many of them who actually were on the first voyage to Tahiti in 1976, I think there are 9 of them, in fact, if I'm right, are here also. So it's a big reunion for them also.
We were like the first crew that sailed Hokule to Tahiti. Well, I feel good because I see a lot of friends and there are a lot of people that is trying to all learn, you know, what we're trying to do.
The pinnacle moment of the 2004 gathering was the rededication of Kaho'olawe as a navigational center. This was achieved symbolically through the blessing of a newly built navigational platform named Kahua Kuhike'e. Constructed by both Kaho'olawe and voyaging members, Kahua Kuhike'e was designed for navigational training as well as ceremonies related to voyaging.
We had Master Navigator Pialug help to dedicate our Kahua Kilohoku, or our celestial navigation platform at Kealikahiki, which traditionally for Kanaka people is the most important, I think, site for navigation and for training, celestial training. And so the presence of Mao and the canoes, the Hokule, the Makali'i and the Hoku'alakai, the new canoe, I think signify how, again, this island and and the island as a place to use as a resource for people has opened up again.
The acknowledgement and blessing of Kahua Kuhike'e at Keala'ikahiki would mark an end to the division between the early warriors and the early voyagers. It would also open up the pathway for a new era in the rebirth of Hawaiian culture, one marked by growing unity and shared vision.
Last night was the first time after 28 years that we were able to have the voyaging ohanas and their canoes represented to sit on a platform and to hear Papa Mau to talk about how he has known Kealikahiki, the Lai Kealikahiki, the forehead to the nose of Kealikahiki, the ridge to the black rocks that have disappeared. And what is the significance of that place? And how we could build that significance back up to its proper stature.
I want to say something about this island, Kaho'olawe. The story before for Kaho'olawe. Kaho'olawe is for the navigation, canoes, and the people. Before, long time ago, when the navigation day one go to Tahiti or Marquesas or everywhere. And then they come here first. They come talk to them on this island. But now I think we say nobody on this island. No. Plenty people on this island now. They with us this time when we do this. They stay with us. But we don't know the people because the people is not like us. Spirit. They stay on this island. They watch us what we do when we like sailing to somewhere, and then we don't come here like say goodbye or aloha. Then when we go to the ocean, we're gonna problem in the ocean. But we never come to here first. That's why now I'm happy when we do this, and then I'm thinking better when every year, one time we do this or 2 times we do that.
Nui Kaho'olawe in Hioloko. No ke I maulaga ui kumai nei. According to what my tutu tells me, they would come back in the mind they were sailing for Kealo Kahiki. And when they left, the same thing too. They would acknowledge Kealo Kahiki and then go back. So there's many good things. There is a connection here.
Mau had asked many times to come to Kaho'olawe, especially now with this canoe. And in honor of you, Papa, for what you've done for us as your children, this is the least that we can do for you. Aye?
Aye.
Because we believe dreams come true, which you have told us many times before, that there is magic. And that is something that we all have and we need to care for. So mahalo, Papa, for coming. I had a dream, just like all of us, about a family. And it's been very difficult for all of us to believe in our dreams. Sometimes our fears are so great because there is so much pain that is buried so deep that it becomes very difficult, very, very difficult for us to think clearly, to see clearly on what really is the truth, what is pono. And sometimes, between the lines, the kauna so deep and profound that we need to come to islands, like canoes, like Kaho'olawe. We need to come back to look through the eyes of children, as this Aina has. And we need to believe in family. I hope we all never forget those dreams and never let our fears overcome our dreams. And that we're able now, with the family of the canoe and island, truly learn to love one another. And for all the things, if we have done anything wrong to anyone or to anything, please forgive us.
I believe all Hawaiians gotta fight their battles. They gotta choose their battles. Because if we were here strongly with you guys to get this island back, we would not be out there fighting the battles. They got 3 canoes here today. That's true. We gotta choose battles, and we all gotta go out there and fight the battles that we accept as our kuleana. And when each one of us do that, we get stronger. We get stronger.
You know, we come here very humble tonight, and we thank you for this whole beautiful weekend. There's so many things. You know, my son came here on the canoe, and he wants to come back to the island to work. And Scarlett came to Kaho'olawe, and now she wants to go on a canoe. And I think it's because because that's who we are. We're Kaho'olawe, we're the canoe, you know, it's all the same. We all have the same goals, and it doesn't matter if we're on Kaho'olawe or on the canoe. I think we're all going to the same place, and it's good that we all come together and help each other, because we need to do that.
O ko mako aloha nui ia oe kia kua no ke ia hui hala wai no ke ia ho ako ko ana mai no i o mako I ke ia aina nei ke ia aina ko Kaho'olawe. Hala nui ia oe kia kua ko ala ana mai mako ko ka awale ana.
Kaho'olawe and Hokule were catalysts to the Native Hawaiian Cultural Renaissance, an island and a canoe, one calling her people back to the sea, the other calling them back to the land. Both calling upon a generation of Native Hawaiians to look deep within themselves, to rediscover their heritage, to reconnect with the past, and to commit to rebuilding the cultural and political identity of their people for future generations.
The stopping of the bombing was to empower ourselves to know that we can actually do anything we believe is righteous and good as a people. Hokule was to reestablish our link to all of the disciplines that we have as Hawaiians. So the regaining of our navigational skills, the regaining of our connection to Polynesia. And if we could bring the two together, empowerment and the awesome ability to be creative and dynamic thinkers, we can do everything we would like to do, and we have the ability to do it because inherent in us is the knowledge and the skills to do so.
Right across the way there on the island of Maui is Pu'umahoi. And the kahu of that area in Ulupalakua is there with a bunch of guys. They're going to be doing their ceremony simultaneously as we are. Okay, so they're gathering the clouds. You see how it's working? And then they're going to send it over this way. So this ceremony is to welcome that cloud to come and stay.
Aloha, ku'umoku, o Kaho'olawe. Mai kinohi, o inoa, o Kanaloa.
We move Kaho'olawe, so now we move forward as an island, as a people. And if this place is really a puhonua, as a puhonua, a place of refuge for people, a place for a gathering of a people, this was the first gathering of this new era.
With the early warriors of Kaho'olawe and the early voyagers of Hokule united, an important chapter in history comes to a close. Through the healing of these two families and their return to the common bond of Kaho'olawe, of Kanaloa, the spiritual essence of the land and sea are again connected. Ancient pathways as well as new ones are opening. It is now up to the next generation to continue this important journey of cultural rebirth, of aloha aina, of reconnecting with the past and bravely navigating the uncharted waters of Hawaii's future.
No ke kaua, ka uho, me ka aupuhi. Pa'apu, ka mana'o, no ka pono, o ka aina. I mua na pua, lana kila Kaho'olawe.
It feels good to be a part of a movement that has been going on since way before I was born, and to see my parents, put their work down, and now it's time for me to pick up the slack and keep going.
Me ole kumako kuna alelo aya mako. Ina alela ko I hana I kalako hana alela kumalamu kalako kuleana. Ale mako na hanauna eloa ai mea mako eloa ai ke ala. Hono mako ike ke ia manawa kumako kuleana. E lawe ke la kuleana mai na pohi iwi o kumako kuna. Na kau manuno o kumako pohi iwi a kokua ke kahi e holo mua ma ke ia au Hawaii.
Keeping the dream alive of our kupuna and all of you folks that set the way for us, set the course. And now we just riding the wave, and we're going to keep that flow going. We're going to catch the next one and the next one. And we're doing it with passion and aloha because of what all of you folks set for us.
O Kaho'olawe, mai kinohi, o inoa, o Kanaloa.